Welcome to Lesson 2, Extending Number Patterns. In this lesson, we're going to continue to work with number patterns. So let's begin with an example. Here we see a pattern of rectangles that start with two squares in the first rectangle, and then the rectangles grow as the pattern continues. So below each rectangle, we have numbered it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Go ahead and draw these rectangles in your notebook. Pause the video, and once you are ready to continue, then continue watching. Next, you are going to draw this table in your notebook with two columns. The first column is for the rectangle number, so these are the numbers that we have below each rectangle. And then the second column is going to be for number of squares. So that's where you're going to pause the video and fill in the number of squares that are in each rectangle. When you are ready to continue, then press play and keep watching. So now that you have finished your table, your number should look something like this. In the first table, we see that there are two squares. And in the second table, we see 4 squares, and then 6 squares, and then 8 squares, and then 10 squares. Now we're going to see if we can figure out the pattern rule for this growing pattern. So again, pause the video and see if you can figure out how the number of squares is changing as the rectangle number is increasing. One pattern rule that you could write is to start at 2 and add 2 each time. Basically, after 2, we skip count by 2. So we add 2 more, and then 2 more here, and 2 more, and 2 more, and the pattern would continue further down. See if you can come up with another pattern rule. What do we do to the rectangle number to turn it into this number here? There's another rule that we can use. How do we turn a 2 into a 4? How do we turn a 3 into a 6? How do we turn a 4 into an 8 and a 5 into a 10? There's one rule that would work for all these numbers. So I'll give you a hint. You might be thinking of addition. You might think, oh, 1 plus 1 is 2, and 2 plus 2 is 4, and 3 plus 3 is 6. But that's not the same rule. It changes each time because the number you're adding is different. So think of something other than multiplying that works for all these numbers. So pause the video and think about it for a second. So another pattern rule that fits this table is to take the rectangle number and multiply it by 2. 1 times 2 is 2. Let's see if it works for the other ones. 2 times 2 is 4. 3 times 2 is 6. 4 times 2 is 8, and 5 times 2 is 10. So this pattern rule works as well. So either pattern rule will work. Let's try to answer this problem. How many squares will the 8th rectangle have? What about the 12th rectangle? So pause the video and see if you can figure out, if this pattern continues to grow, how many squares would we have in the 8th rectangle and in the 12th rectangle? Once you have your answers, play the video and let's see if you got it right. So you could use either pattern rule that we came up with a few seconds ago. You could skip count by 2 and keep going to the 8th and the 12th rectangle, or you can simply take the rectangle number and multiply it by 2. That's what we'll try here. So we'll take rectangle number 8, we'll multiply it by 2, and we get 16. And then we'll take rectangle number 12 and multiply it by 2 to get 24. Now all that's left to do is to answer this problem in a complete sentence. Since we are asked in a sentence, we need to answer in a complete sentence. So our final answer says the 8th rectangle has 16 squares and the 12th rectangle has 24 squares. In this lesson, we continued to work with number patterns and we learned how to extend number patterns. We start by having a picture of our number pattern. We come up with a pattern rule, and then we are able to take the number pattern and extend it and find out how the pattern continues to change as in this example, rectangle numbers get bigger. So please watch the video again. If you need to, ask your teacher for help and have fun extending number patterns.